All right, this is my assignment 2 presentation. This is an individual presentation. I've done it myself. I'm going to be talking about consent. I think it's one of the biggest issues we're facing today is the lack of consent during a sexual act or even just in day-to-day life. We see even people that call you, right, and stuff like that. You know, those, hello, this is the CRA, blah, 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 right? Technically, you know, you haven't consented them to mass call you, yet they still do. Right, and that's technically against the law, right? Even let's say that spam emails and all that you get that no one ever reads through, but technically sending that is against the law, right? You're not allowed to send someone an email unless it's implied consent there, right? And we're looking at it from that standpoint. Obviously, I'm going to be focusing more on the sexual realm, especially focusing on Durham College, but it is so important to get consent, even just for a high five or a handshake. Right? You don't grab the person's hand beside you. You hold out your hand, and if they approach you, that's kind of an implied yes, right? You look at a hug, right? A hug, you got to be careful, especially because even hug, kiss, anything like that, you have to get in consent, right? Not saying no is not consent, and we'll go over that later on. All right, so consent is something that two people agree on, right? So let's say me and Timmy beside me agreed to watch, I don't know, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, right? We consented to watch something we both agree upon. Great. We consented. It has to be something I give permission. Let's say Jimmy needs to go out shopping in my car somewhere. Here, Jimmy, here's my car keys. Go ahead and move it around the block, right? I'm giving him consent to take my car, right? It's voluntary. He's not forcing me to do that or anything like that. It's given voluntarily, and also, you're not under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Let's say I'm with Brittany, my current girlfriend, and, we're sitting beside each other, right? And she wants to do stuff, but I'm really not in the mood. But I'm drunk, or I am in the mood, right? I'm drunk, but we can't do anything if one of us is drunk, right? Because consent can't be given if one of us is drunk. Even if, let's say I'm drunk, right, and she wants to do stuff and I don't, well, I still can't consent even though I don't want to. But it's one of those things where I'm drunk, so it doesn't happen either way. And if something did happen, it would be considered rape or something along those lines. Consent is key on both parties. Sober consent. Right, I got this little video. Pretty much sums up consent pretty well. That is not consent.
Sexual consent means that both people are actively willing to engage in a particular sexual behavior and express their consent by saying, yes, that's okay with me. But just because someone consents to engage in one kind of behavior does not mean that they have agreed to engage in another.
Big problem in today's society.
Their mind about what they do or do not want to do at any time. This means that even if you are engaging in sexual acts with a person and they change their mind, you must stop and respect that person's wishes.
Very important.
Just because someone doesn't say no, it doesn't mean that they have said yes or given their consent. If a person is under the influence of drugs or alcohol, they are legally not able to give consent. Engaging in sexual behavior with someone who does not or cannot consent is sexual assault or rape. If you have been...
All right. And that video is very, it's straight up with the facts, right? You got to be sober. You got to do this, right? And there's times where, you just, even if you don't say no, that doesn't mean you're saying yes. Don't do it. And that is the biggest problem we're facing is whether you're a male or a female, right? And I hate to say it, guys are more known for this and just persuading or abusing. And we're going to go on to that real quick. And just saying, what they're guy, and I hate to say it, I wish guys were better than this, but can you see? Yeah, you can. All right. So just looking here, right? A lot of guys tend to pressure people into it. This one's the worst, unconscious. If you have a partner that's unconscious, protect them. Don't abuse them. Is the best way to put it. Right? Like you can't consent if they're drunk or anything, but you also don't want to pressure them into it, or they're silent, or maybe they're hesitant, like they don't want to do it. That doesn't mean green light, go to town, right? And unfortunately, guys haven't gotten this concept, and I think it needs to be made more aware. Now, this whole thing here is a perfect poster to put up on a wall, and it's always asking a question. Asking a question tends to draw more people's attention into things, right? So this would be a perfect example of a good poster. And I just realized that because of my camera, you can't see this word right down here. But right there, it just says active, right? It is always actively going. I can withdraw anytime, right? It's retractable, right? I'm always constantly giving consent or not giving consent. I'm able to withdraw my consent, right? Let's say, I consent Timmy to drive down the road. Well, I don't want Timmy driving down the road anymore, so I'm going to pull away my consent, right? I need to be comfortable in it, right? If I'm uncomfortable doing something, or maybe like, I'm in pain or something, I reserve the full right to be withdrawn from that activity, right? I'm giving it freely. I'm not under pressure, right? Like, I'm going to use this drastic example. You're going to rob a bank. Well, that person giving them money isn't really consenting because you're forcing them to rob the bank, right? You know what I mean? Like forcing them to give the money. It's given freely, no pressure, no drugs, no nothing. And it is essential for everything you do, whether it be sending someone an email, right? If it's for business correspondence, or if it's for a sexual act, most likely in your household or something like that, you want to make sure that both parties are getting consent. That is a huge, huge thing. Now, I've come up with something that would be fun to have on campus. Now, we'll do yes as to back and no as to front, for instance, right? I can't get a card together and like bring it in and unfortunately show you. And I don't have a working printer at the moment because I can't afford ink. But this is what it would look like. It would be a two-sided card. Really simple, right? You have back, front, and it's one of those things where on the front it'd say yes, go for it. And I think these would be little, and what I plan is have it little wallet side cards, have them all around Durham College, right? And even UIT, get them involved, right? And it just says yes or no, right? I get, sometimes like actively saying it, like to you might be a mood killer. For me, I think it's the utmost sign of respect if you and your partner consent. I think that is true love. I personally believe that there's nothing better than being able to say, hey, I'm really happy we're here. I'm really all this stuff, right? I'm really happy that we're communicating between each other, that we can consent to this, and these cards, like maybe for the less verbal or even people that can't speak, right? It's just a fun thing for both. Or you could have it in your wallet, just right. Let's say for guys, right next to the condom. Don't keep condoms in your wallet. That's a totally other story. And just have it right side up on the bedside table means you're both okay with it. If one of you guys wants to opt out for any reason, even let's say you have to go to the washroom and you want to flip it upside down, like, hey, I got to take a break for a second, or I need a breather, I need to do something, I'm not comfortable. Right? Just being able to say, hey, look, no, right? This is what I'm feeling, right? Being able to have examples, because sometimes you're reluctant or hesitant, right? Being able to have a list there that you can actually kind of point to, which is why I've added, you can't point, I'm so used to pointing, like just having a list of stuff that, look, hey, I want to be silent about it, but I don't consent right now, right? Or being able to say, yeah, absolutely, I'm comfortable with what's going on, right? Yes, that's okay. Right, absolutely great. And these would just be fun little cards you can pass out on campus. You can make a ton of them on one sheet of paper. It'd be double-sided, the same paper. And it would really just be a fun little pocket thing to have. Right, and that would be my idea of an invention, just consent cards. Always has to be on yes if you want to do anything. I wanted to also talk about consent condoms. These were really cool. I'm almost hitting the time limit here, so I'll speed up. It requires four hands to unlock. You have to push two buttons on each side. Really, really cool condom design idea, and I'm a huge fan of it. Obviously, is it conceivable? No. I would like to make a DC one. Basically, ask me what I'm asking for is a perfect example. Obviously, that one was just more of a fun play on it. But always ask for consent before doing any of that stuff. whether it be sex or just a hug or a kiss. Always ask for consent. That is my presentation. All right, good. I'm only a little bit over 10. I hope that's okay. I didn't want to make it over 10. Thank you for such a great year. And I'm going to be honest, I've learned a ton through this program. So I just wanted to get a chance to say thank you. And I wish we could have done this in class because I feel like we would have had some interesting discussions.